All right. Tonight we have Emma Rose joining our podcast. Welcome, Emma.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Emma. Yeah, really appreciate that. Like you can join our podcast. And I remember when I first met you last year, you really made a very special impression to me because your energy is just electrifying. Like every time when I see you, when I talk to you, I just want to get up and start running. Like I just don't know why. Like it's just like incredible. Like and
I do
yeah,
quite like running, Calvin.
I know. I think next time I think we should have a podcast or interview you while we are running. I think that will probably help a lot. Like so anyway, yeah, I think yeah, awesome to have you and also obviously we have our co-host Dave Stewart, like who will be able to talk to you and try to find out more about your background. So without further ado, maybe tell us a little bit about your running background, like how you got into running, what was your journey? Obviously, you have a very professional career, like as a psychologist. You're also very busy mom as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I think I think a lot of mom who are listening to this podcast may feel something that can resonate to them, and they may get them to into ultra running. Yeah, tell us, Emma.
Well, I never really ran much as a kid. I remember a little bit when I was perhaps 3 or 4, chasing my brother who was always on a bike. So he would be riding around and I'd be chasing after him in my gumboots up and down our dirt road in North Warrandyte at the time. And I still remember quite fondly a couple of photos that Mum showed me once with, here's me running around and chasing my brother in my little gumboots. But in high school and primary school, I really wasn't into running at all. And I remember vividly if there was ever like a cross country race or any, running event that was required or mandatory as part of the school sort of curriculum or routine. Gee whiz, I would find any and every excuse to not run. Like it was like sounded horrendous. Like, why would you do that? And then I got into my sort of young adulthood sort of years, and I'd had a breakup, right? And I was feeling pretty miserable, to be honest. And I am blessed with some absolutely epic friends. And two of my girlfriends said to me one day, right, that's it, enough. Like you've wallowed plenty. And these were the kind of girlfriends who weren't like, you've wallowed plenty, let's go out on the drinks. You've wallowed plenty. We're going running. And so they said to me, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we don't really care how miserable you are, but at the Warrandyte Bridge, 6 in the morning, like you just have to be there. And if you're not there, we're going to come to your house and that's going to be really embarrassing. So
Mm.
you just want to be there, right?
Yeah.
And so, I couldn't run at the time at all. And so they essentially made me do 200 meters on, 100 meters off, 200 meters on, and so on and so forth. And over the weeks and over the months, the three of us ran together more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, these little 200 meters on and off kind of situation became, 10 Ks. And then 15 and then 20 and then all of a sudden a half marathon came into the mix. And
Yep.
before I knew it, I was this kind of running person. I had this new sort of thing that I did when I woke up in the morning a few times a week with some girlfriends. And gee whiz, I could not be more grateful to those women who, instead of going down the path of let's have a coffee or let's go for a drink, who said, let's move your body and let's get some fresh air. Because I think that they obviously knew me, but they also saw the value in moving when you're feeling flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that probably got me started running. And then I kind of dipped my toe. I did my first ultra, I don't know, in my mid 30s maybe, and then stopped running when I had babies. I had 2 kids, and like some mums, I actually put on a lot of weight when I had kids, and I was feeling really meh. I was feeling really lonely. I found having very small children quite isolating. It was really hard to get out. It was really hard to have time. My husband was going off to work. My kids slept at random times. They never slept well during the night. So I really felt quite flat and low. And I remember one day saying to my other half, oh, I can't do this. Like my mental health is just taking such a toll from being, this full-time mum, and I'm not working. I'm not really doing anything else for me. I need to move my body. So at that point, we got our first running pram, and that was the best decision I ever made because it meant I could feed my eldest son and pop him in the pram and he would sleep. And I could do this little shuffly thing that got me outside. It got me moving. It got me waving hi to people on the street. And it just got me out into the world again, doing something that was good for me. And then at one point I had two kids in a running pram, and then I had two kids and a dog and a running pram. And, I remember running up and down Pound Bend in Warrandyte, where Run Warrandyte's going to be in a couple of weeks, and doing this same thing, just two kids in a running pram and a dog, because it got me outside and it got me moving. And so
Yeah,
it was good
yeah,
for my physical health, but it was really good for my mental health. And
yeah,
then, kids got bigger and they slept a little bit longer. And finally, I was able to dip my toe in the early morning run before anyone else got up.
yeah, yeah.
Still my best time,
And that's how you really like start your running journey, and so since then you have been sort of increasing your running frequency. You add
Mm.
more races and longer distance, and yeah. So that's how. So when did you do like your when did you complete your first 100K race?
That was in 2020. So I had trained for Oxfam that was supposed to be in March of 2020, and a week before we were due to do it. So myself and
How old are the kids at this point, by the way? How old? I'm just
okay,
going to jump in here because
so
I'm trying to get a timeline here. You've
eight,
painted a great picture.
about that,
Yeah.
about 8 and
'Cause,
6.
by the way, I got in trouble with the running pram because I started my eldest. I started before she was 1 year old, and apparently you're not meant to do that in a running pram because their heads move around too much. So anyway, I'm looking here.
I might have also got in trouble
Yeah.
then.
Anyway,
I
okay,
think
let's go.
I think
Okay, so
they were told us if they can hold their head up. I think it was 6 months or 8 months.
that's right.
I
That's
can't remember
right.
what it
That's
was.
right.
Yeah, yeah. I think it also depends on the quality of the running pram. Like they've
Yeah,
come a long way.
they have.
So I reckon 2020, I'd say a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And that was supposed to be Oxfam, but then a week before it was due. So all the training was done. And then a week before Oxfam, lockdown.
Mm.
Oh, man, it was so bad. We were so gutted. So gutted.
Wow.
So
And how did that change the prep then? Or did the running continue or
Well, I trained so hard. So I thought, look, I'm not going to waste all this training. What's the next thing that I think I could sink my teeth into? And that was Surf Coast. So back then, Surf Coast wasn't as late in the year.
Mm.
And so I thought, right, I'll keep my training up and I'll do Surf Coast Century. And so I signed up for that, and then that got pushed because of COVID again. I actually think that got pushed twice because of COVID, but that was still my very first 100K, so late in 2020. And the Surf Coast Century, yeah, super fun.
Amazing. And then now talk about Emma, talk about the your your idea maybe as a psychologist, like so how does this sort of like relate to your running? Like do you find that being a psychologist is actually help a lot, like especially when you're doing ultra, obviously you had a lot of low point, right? Like so does it really help you get through those difficult time? Like
I think ultra running is the ultimate example of being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
hmm,
Mhm.
because you're so frequently uncomfortable when you're ultra running. Like that's just a reality. And so if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, you can get through most lower points of an ultra. And I think that's true for life. Like
hmm,
the more we can be comfortable being uncomfortable in life, the more we can, have better grit, have better resilience, have better coping skills when things go pear-shaped. Does my psychology background help my ultra running? I don't know, because I think I've learned more from like being comfortable, being uncomfortable from running. I think the running is helping my psych work
That's
perhaps
the
more
other way around.
than I am. I'm not sure. It's an interesting one. Definitely long distance running helps my head, and I'm an ADHDer. So I do find that the one amazing thing for me from a mental health perspective is when I'm running, I usually only have one thought at a time. Whereas in my day-to-day world, I would have many, many trains on many, many different tracks in my brain. But when I'm running, I usually have one thought on one train track, which is such a relief. I love that experience.
So
Mm.
to bounce off Kelvin's question then, background in psychology, running, and I love that train track analogy with the ADHD stuff. So what is it that then is it focus? Because I was reading an article there before about, you combined ADHD was identified later in life, and then you were always on the go. But then when you, as you said, you found, and you could never sit still. But then when you were running, you had that focus on the track. Delve into that a little bit deeper for us.
So ADHD is one of the most misunderstood
Mm,
diagnoses or
yeah.
identifications I think that there is. And one of the things that drives me a bit crazy about it all is that the ADHD component says there's an attention deficit.
Hmm.
ADHDs do not have a deficit in attention. We have a deficit in our ability to regulate our attention, which means that we can attend to lots of different things at once. We can attend to one thing a lot. For me, my sort of hyper focuses would be psychology and running. They're my two big hyper focuses. When I'm not running, I my brain goes at a bazillion miles an hour, and I can have so many thoughts concurrently happening in my brain, and just that's just always been the way, and I'm quite used to doing that. That's just my sort of natural state of being. But when I'm running, I think it's also because of the meditative state of one foot, one foot, one foot, one foot, and you're out in nature and all of those combined components. I just have a thought at a time. And when that thought's finished, the next thought will come in. And there's less pressure to have a thought, to have to try and narrow it down because your brain, oh, I don't know, for me, my brain just does that nice little one thought at a time. And it's actually quite relaxing to run. So the longer I have to sometimes get to that point. So a 6K run or an 8K run won't get me to that point. But once I've got into sort of like 12 or 15Ks, that's where my brain starts to quieten down. And then I find that really relaxing. It's a strange thing, I know, how running can be relaxing, but it is to me. It's like emotionally and mentally, it's lower cognitive requirements. Like I use less energy of my brain when I'm moving more.
I mean, I love that because uh, we've spoken to obviously a bunch of ultra runners. We all know a lot of ultra runners, and everyone comes to an ultra with a different background, but also with a different mentality. And I use that word mentality because, uh, yeah, when you're in the zone, when you're running those many, 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 many kilometers, time on your feet, as you said, one foot in front of the other. Some people take it because they've they've got to consume themselves with everything else that's happening. But I love that you be able to strip it down. So then, how have you been able to apply that when you're uh, in your work life with the psychology side of things, working with kids or working with families or whoever it might be, to take what you've learnt in ultra running and apply it to that space?
That's a great question. And someone once said to me, don't forget the word motion is in the word emotion. And
Mm.
the power of using motion to support emotion. And when we talk about in my work life things like the boring basics, have you eaten well? Have you got sunshine? Have you spent time with connected friends? Have you moved your body? The power of moving our body is so often ignored or or kind of perhaps not given the time or the energy that it really should be given in how much it does support our ability to process emotion. And to be able to use running as an analogy is great. To be able to talk to people who are finding it really difficult to be uncomfortable and show them how to practice being uncomfortable is really good. I mean, as you can imagine, I'm not really a sit there and let's talk about your feelings for hours kind of psychologist. I'm like, let's make a mess of this room and let's talk about it and let's do this. I'm a much more kind of a, practical, moving kind of psychologist. In fact, oh my gosh, this is what my brain does. It did a little segue. I will never forget when I did a presentation at a conference once on ADHD, and they had me standing behind a lectern, and they said, "Oh, can you stand behind this lectern so the mic can pick you up?" I'm thinking, for 50 minutes, you want me to stand still for 50 minutes at an ADHD conference? And I was like, nah, I can't. Like, I'm going to need to have a roving mic because there's no way I can stand still and present on something, for 50 straight minutes. And it was quite an eye-opening, I think, thing for them to realize that, this presenter's not going to stand still. And from now on, I always say to people, please don't bother setting up a lectern. Like, I'm going to be on my feet the whole day. But yes, sorry, I lost track of what the question was. The question was, I think, how does it apply to my work?
Yeah.
In so many different ways.
Wow. And so Emma, like you obviously, I mean, you have seen a lot of I guess, I mean, your client, like, and are they mainly children, or do you see runners who have like difficulty in terms of their mental health, like what's yeah.
Good question. I don't work with sports people per
Okay.
se. So all my work is really with children and teens and youth in the mental health space, and also a lot in going into schools and helping teachers to understand
Yep.
things like neurodiversity and anxiety to help teachers. I've figured out, like, the better we can go up the stream and teach the people who are going to be teaching their children, sort of the
Yep.
better it can be. So no, I don't really work with sports
Mm.
people, but there are some really cool sports psychs out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
So do you have you come across that, like I mean, some of your clients, a teenager or children, that like you would try to encourage them to start embracing running or trail running? Like, have you ever like start that kind of like conversation? Hey, why don't you come with me and start running? Like, 'cause honestly, because my son, I
Yeah.
mean, he's 16. Like, my daughter, she's 14. I would love them to get into trail running, or any running, like, and I mean, they're into sports, but more like team sports, like not so much running. Like, so is this something that like you have done, like sort of encourage teenager to get into running to help them their mental health? And yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, I think running for me ticks so many different boxes. It
Mm.
ticks social boxes, it ticks joyful boxes, it ticks nature boxes, it ticks movement boxes, it ticks mental health boxes, it ticks so many different boxes.
Yep.
And different people get that from different things. So, if I was looking at someone and saying, okay, how do I help you to move your body more to help you to regulate better? It's got to be in whatever it is that's going to make them actually want to keep doing the thing.
Mm.
So, if running works for some people, awesome. If swimming works for, swimming laps and staring at the black line really works for some people. Cycling
Okay.
works for some people. Dancing works for some people. I don't think it actually matters what you do,
Yep.
provided you're going to keep doing it, and provided that it ticks enough boxes that if for one day you're feeling like sluggish and you really can't be bothered, enough other boxes are going to make you still want to do the thing.
Yeah.
You still want to catch up with your mates, or you still can't wait for that fancy dress event, or you still can't wait to dance to this particular song or whatever it is. But I think we do need more movement in our community.
Yeah.
I think movement is super important.
Yep.
And I would say that, generally, I mean, and Kelvin, you've mentioned your children, and Emma, you've got yours there. I mean, my two girls are very, very sporty. My oldest is, she was, well, she was diagnosed early on with dyslexia, but then of course with dyslexia comes the ADHD stuff, and uh, won't go down that rabbit hole about my own children necessarily. But what I guess is that I know for sure sport, whether it be team sport, whether it be individual sport, definitely, that focus as you've talked about, but also it drives. It's a driver.
Yeah. It's so important and it ticks so many different boxes.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
So then, okay, so psychology, running, ultra running, the kids. Now, tell us a little bit about your journey with I guess, the fundraising side of what you've taken on, and tell us about that.
So, all right. So I work in a multidisciplinary team, which means there's psychologists and pediatricians and art therapists and all different people all in our space. And this is what you get for bragging. So I was sitting around at lunchtime. This is a couple of years ago now, and it was lunch break, and we're sitting down all having a chat, and I was doing a little humble brag about the fact that I was doing Run for the Kids on the weekend. And one of the pediatricians, who is absolutely extraordinary pediatrician, and she made me aware of the fact that that is an excellent event because it raises money for Royal Children's Hospital, and that's a really important hospital. It's got lots of incredible research, and we really need to support that. And our local hospitals, they don't have any fundraising specific for pediatrics, and that they're two separate things. And I don't think that I realized that they were two different things. So very important that this happens, but our local hospitals also desperately need funds, and we haven't got anything set up for that. So I don't know whether this is the ADHD in me where I just went, right, what's the craziest thing I can do here? I'm not really sure. But within the space of a very short period of time, I had to, I'm thinking like a couple of days, I had hatched this ridiculous plan to run from the top of Lake Mountain all the way past the Eastern Health Hospital. So the Angus Hospital, the Maroondah Hospital, and the Box Hill Hospital, and then continue my journey to Federation Square. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking, look, let's do something stupid, because that's probably going to get people to go, oh, she's doing something stupid. We could perhaps throw a few dollars at her, and that could go towards, supporting our local kids in our local hospitals. So my original game plan was maybe I could raise $5,000. $5,000 will get a few supplies just to make going to hospital less scary. Because as an ADHD, I also work with a lot of autistic people. Being in hospital is unfun. You guys have probably been to hospital with your own kids. It's scary for kids. It smells weird, and there's new people, and they want to touch you and poke you, and it's not a fun experience. But we can make hospitals less scary. So I thought, look, let's see if I can raise $5,000. And then we can use that money to buy some supplies that kids can have to hold, or, to make them feel safer when they're in hospital. So that was my silly idea.
No, not at all. It's on trend. It's very on trend.
Yes. So I started with that crazy idea, and then it kind of grew, and more people kind of heard about it. And then I decided to do, okay, let's just say if I can reach 30,000, I'd call it my tutu target. And my tutu target was $30,000. I will run the whole thing in a tutu. And then I was like, oh, what have you said? That's going to be really hard. It's like 170 something Ks in a tutu. You shouldn't have said that out loud. Now you're going to have to actually do it. And then I got to 30,000. So I had to actually run the whole thing in a tutu.
In a tutu.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting choice. I think I said that out loud before I'd had time to actually think that through.
And then where did it go from there?
So as I was running along, well, the actual run itself was hilarious because we started at 5 o'clock at night on a Friday, and it was like -4 or something degrees at the top of Lake Mountain, and it was snowing. And so it was absolutely miserable. And I started running, and it wasn't too bad. And then overnight, it just torrential rained. It was just miserable. And I had on 2 thermals and 2 pairs of gloves and a
And
rain
a
jacket.
soggy tutu.
Oh, and a soggy tutu. Like it's just, oh. And so running through the middle of the night in torrential rain, absolutely freezing. And nothing I did nutritionally worked. I just could not keep food down. Like I wasn't vomiting, but I couldn't get anything in. And so I just felt like rubbish. I remember hitting a spot and I was on the Warburton Trail about 3 a.m. and I had some friends that were running with me and they had on light up tutus. They were trying to like keep me going and, encourage me along. And I was running along and I just stopped dead and they all crashed into the back of me. And we had a friend of ours on a bike and he fell off his bike because I just stopped so suddenly. And they were all like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm done. That's it. I want to have a sleep." And they were like, "Yeah, nah. You've got a long way to go, girl. You need to." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to need some caffeine." So they organized a coffee for me and I kept going, but I just felt sick. Nothing was going right nutritionally and I just felt woeful. And then I continued to feel woeful for like the next, I don't know, 14 odd hours. Really unfun. Don't recommend. 0 stars.
Wow. So how much did you raise at the end, Emma?
We ended up raising about 46,000
Wow.
and it was ended up being 180 Ks and it took me 26 hours.
Wow.
The last couple of hours were pretty slow, but yeah, look, it wasn't a bad effort. It was just I felt pretty rubbish for a lot of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean you are a trail runner, right? I think that there was a lot of pavement, lot.
There was a lot of concrete like that. It's relentless.
Yeah.
Yes, give me travel any day.
That's terrible. That's terrible. What do you want to be doing that for?
I don't know. It raised some money. I mean, 46 grand, you can't sniff at that. So that was awesome.
No, I was talking about running on the pavement. No, the money, that's why you were doing it.
The pavement was horrendous.
And then was there a fanfare at Fed Square for you?
There was a little bit of a fanfare, although I have to say, I think I was a bit of a party pooper because I got to the finish line and it was all fun and great for about, I don't know, 30 seconds. And then my body just went, "You are done." And I just had to lay down in the middle of the ground, in the middle of Fed Square in a tutu. And I'm pretty sure at that point, everyone was thinking, "Okay, this isn't great. She's not looking too good." Never mind.
So, but now that was the birth of now.
Mountain to Melbourne.
Yeah, Mountain to Melbourne. There you go. That's the stage is yours.
Yeah, so that was Mountain to Melbourne round 1. And then Mountain to Melbourne round 2 is happening in 6 weeks. Slightly differently, but yeah, again, off we go.
Yeah, tell us about that, Emma, because I think that's the distance a bit shorter, but is it the routes also different as well?
Yeah, so 2 things. So yes, the route is different. So this year I'm going to start at Healesville Hospital because it didn't get included last year, and we think it's really important with Healesville. And so Healesville to Lilydale, then to the Angus, then to Maroondah, then to Box Hill. And this year we've actually got Eastland have come on board as a sponsor. And so we're going to finish with an internal lap of Eastland, which will be super fun. And then I'll finish at Town Square.
Yeah.
In Eastland, which will be a really fun event. And it also means that it's easier for people to come and be part of that sort of finish line feel. And we'll have a bit of a party, I think, which would be really nice. Yeah. But it's only 100 this year.
Hey, don't say only. Take that back.
And have you got people joining you, or what's the how's it working?
Yeah, so I'll do the whole thing, and there won't be anyone else who'll do the whole thing. At the moment, it's a bit tricky because it's still a little bit grassrootsy as a fundraiser. We hope at some point soon we can change it up so we can have more community involvement. But at the moment, there'll be a couple of people who will run with me throughout stages as we go along. And I'll have a crew with me the whole time, which will be amazing. And we've actually got some of the pediatricians, some of the surgeons, some of the nurses from Eastern Health who run some stints as well. They just got so involved last year, way more than I ever could have expected. And in fact, last year, they had, for the first time ever, they used the PA system in all of the hospitals for something
Really?
code. So
Oh,
they've never
right.
used the hospital system for anything but like a code this, code that. And instead they used it to announce that I was nearly arriving, so that people could come out and, you know, and celebrate. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Wow, that's cool, Emma.
Mm.
Do you think there will be chance that there will be some kids, I mean, from the hospital that can run with you for, I don't know, maybe 500 meters, a K, 1K, to cheer
Yeah,
you on?
maybe. I don't know if they'll be able to run with me this round, but
Okay.
hopefully next year, if we can change the course a little bit and get ourselves set up to be a not-for-profit, which we just haven't had a chance to do yet,
Yeah.
then we can get more kids involved. But we do have a couple of schools that are going to be involved. So there's a couple of
Really
schools
good.
that I'll run past, and the kids, I'll do a couple of laps of their ovals as I go by, and
Yep.
the whole primary school will come and do a couple of laps with me, which will be super fun. We're trying to encourage them all to wear their tutus too. Um, and so there's a couple of fun things like that that'll happen, which will be really nice. Yeah.
Make sure you get on the loudspeaker at the school as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's every little kid's dream, isn't it? To be allowed to use a school loudspeaker.
And
And
the funds that are then gonna are they starting to then go back into these hospitals to start, doing the awareness,
Mm.
getting these programs up and running? Are we seeing that happening yet?
Yeah, so the funds from last year we used for a couple of specific things. We used them to go towards an ultrasound machine because the ultrasound machine helps the IV, it makes it easier to get the IVs in first time for tiny little people. So when we've got little kids, their veins are harder to find. And so the IV machine makes it much easier. Sorry,
Mm.
the ultrasound machine makes it easier for the IVs to go in first time. So that's less scary. We used it to lease some virtual reality goggles that are extraordinary. So these aren't just the ones you'd buy at the local shop, these are proper hospital grade ones, and they have imagery that matches up to the timing of procedures. So, for example, you might have like a little
Wow.
crab that walks along the beach in your imagery that you're watching in your virtual reality goggles, and the crab might give you a little snip at the same time that the injection goes in.
oh,
And so it's all very carefully timed and programmed to make it less scary to have procedures done on children. Isn't that clever?
That's amazing.
that's
So
amazing.
clever, right? I know. And so we can make it less scary for kids. We can use them for like blood tests and things like that so that kids aren't frightened. There's no need for kids to be as frightened as they often are. And we also have so much amazing research that says, you know, tablets, I mean, screen tablets can be more effective sometimes than taking a tablet in calming a child down pre-op. And so we've got all this evidence that says distraction materials actually make hospital stays better,
Mm.
but we have to fund them. There's simply not the government funding to make it happen. So we'll also bought some usables, some like consumables, so like little fidget toys and things like that that kids can play with to keep their little hands busy while they're having to wait or do something that's anxiety provoking or scary in hospitals. So just little things that they can hold and help them feel more comfy when they're going through things that are scary.
So
Yeah,
go, Calvin.
sorry. Yeah, so that's amazing, fascinating, Emma Rose. I think this kind of like I guess information. I mean, is fascinating to know. Like, for us as an outsider, we wouldn't know that like that technology, that funding, like the fundraising, will actually help providing such a impressive, I guess, I mean, equipment like to help those children. I think, yes, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this. Like, I think that really help the people who are looking at donating of help with this fundraising movement. I think it really helpful. And I just look at your fundraising page. It's up to 18,000 already.
Oh,
Like,
is it? Oh,
yes.
wow, I didn't know that. That's cool. Wow.
You're
Well,
too busy doing other
you're
stuff.
too busy. Yeah,
Too
yeah.
busy training.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Trying to
now
train in the wee hours of the morning.
it's really good because I mean just now now it makes sense because it all fit to like you from your journey of starting running. I mean you being having ADHD, that
Mm,
you love motion, and now you turn this motion into a
Mm.
movement, right? A movement that not only helping yourself, but also helping hundreds or even thousands of children out there in the future. And I think that to me that is incredible. And also because you like you said, because of your ADHD, you just have this idea and you just want to make this happen. Like if a normal person may say, oh, I may think about it no, now not a good time. I'm gonna plan for 6 months. No, you it's just incredible, amazing that hey, I got an idea. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna execute it. And yes, amazing. Am I wrong?
Look, it hasn't been without its challenges. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's been like that first year was really hard, and it's really time consuming
Hmm.
to get the word out there. Like, it's taking that takes a lot of time, and also to get all the training done. I
Yep.
don't know. I feel like I've fought a lot harder to get back to training this year for this particular one, and it still feels like I'm somewhat on the back foot, still fighting my way to get the training done in time. Like it is a bit of a tricky one in that you can't just then not do it on the day if you're not feeling up
Hmm.
to it. Like a lot of races, if you really weren't feeling up to it, you just push it out a year, or you just cancel your event or whatever. You don't get that luxury with this. Like you
Yeah.
just got to suck it up, right? You got to make it happen. So that is a challenge. um but I think the importance of the event and the importance of the awareness and the fundraising, it still wins, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So on that, advice time. You're a mum, two kids, juggling full-time work, um, now taking on this huge momentous undertaking, which is, as you say, you are now raising money for an incredible cause. You can't just skive off when you want to. Tell our listeners how, in your experience, how do they actually then park some of that to be able to move forward, not just for the training, but just, I want to come, I'm sort of trying to, my question here is I want to try and come back to the trail, back to that track that in your mind of how to block all the rest of it out.
Mm. um
It's vague, I know.
I don't know the answer, and I think the reality is it's never going to be perfect, and not one single domain is ever going to be perfect. And at some point, figuring out how to be okay with imperfection,
Mm.
and having there's absolutely no way I could do this without an incredible support team. Like you have to have people who help you and have your back. I mean, I am sometimes flabbergasted that my husband is as supportive as he is, because I often bite off more than I can chew, and he's usually there to help me when I'm choking on all of the 6,000 billion things that I've chosen to do. And rather than scolding me, goes, okay, well, what do we need to do here? Like, he's incredible from that perspective. My kids are on board. And so if I say to them, hey guys, I need to get up really early and go running, so I just need you to get up, kind of get going, get started, please, let's get this to do, get the morning going together. 9 times out of 10, they're on board. I have an epic coach who, I mean, I text her today, right? So I was supposed to do a 12K training run this morning, right? And I ran twice yesterday and worked a full day. And I woke up this morning, my alarm went off at 5, and my body just went, no, no, we are done. We are not getting up at 5. That's not going to happen. So I texted her and I said, it's not going to happen. She texted me back, good on you, listening to your body. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I can put the guilt of that missed training session to the side and leave it there. I don't need to hold on to that guilt, and I can just move forward from there and get ready for my big run tomorrow. So having people on side and people who are there to work with you rather than to tell you what you need to do differently or you need to do what you're doing wrong, I think that's really, really important. It's hard. Like, don't get me wrong, it's really hard to balance all of those things. And the other thing is, I think you've got to be comfortable cheating where you can. Like, what I mean by that, right? Like, not cheating, but like
No, 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 no,
cheating where you can. Like, you know, um, twice this week I've put the same load of washing on twice.
no.
Because I've just forgotten that the load of washing was in the machine. So I just hit go and it goes again. And then I actually had to hit go again and it had to go again because I cannot remember all the things. I got an email from the kids' school today saying you still haven't agreed, you have signed the paperwork thing that says I can go to cross country or whatever it is tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that's right. And then the kids are like, Mom, you got to sign that thing, like, yep, okay. And like, I'm going to drop balls. So either I can get really upset with myself for dropping those balls, or I can just go, it's actually all right to have some things get dropped. It's okay to do an extra lunch order one week or to, have the same meal 2 days in a row. Like no one's dying. Like it's okay to not be the perfect mum or not be the perfect boss or not be the perfect runner or not be the perfect friend. It's impossible to get every single thing right. So it's okay to get everything good or good
And that's
enough.
I mean, that's a perfect answer, and I guess that's where I was delving there, is because I think we all know it, in today's world, there's so much going on. There is so much going on, and the concentration, being able to focus on one thing at a time is incredibly hard. I did exactly the same thing about an hour before we got on. I opened up my emails and there was 10 different emails saying, you haven't signed this, you haven't done that, you haven't done this. And it's exactly the same thing. And Kelvin and I have spoken about this previously about wanting to be perfect and make it slick. And it's okay to strive for that, but sometimes it doesn't have to be that. So for you to be able to sum it up the way you just have, I think is not only sage advice, but it comes at a good time for a lot of people because there's so much going on. There's even so many, let's face it, there's so many events, there's so many fundraisers at the moment. Like there's a lot going on, and to just realize it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. And I guess for someone, as an adult dealing with ADHD and anxiety and all of those things, I think the more and more we stop and recognize, press the laundry twice, it doesn't matter, it is okay.
And I think that there is so much pressure to be imperfect,
Yeah.
sorry, to be perfect, that being imperfect also feels scary for a lot of people. And for me too, like I strive for excellence in everything. And the reality is that is absolutely unachievable. And instead, striving for really good is kind of where I'm not perfect at that either. Like I'm trying to practice striving for really good rather than excellent because that's more realistic. And to stop, the hating on yourself when you do like forget that the kids have cupcake day tomorrow and you're not always going to have the cupcakes done. Like it's just there, it's impossible to do everything. So we just actually need to be okay with, yeah, that imperfection. But I also think we sometimes lose sight of the fact that I would hope most people, that running really should be about enjoyment.
Mm.
And at some stages, I think we get to the point where we take running so seriously that it actually loses all of the fun.
Mm.
And I think one of the other things that make it more sustainable for a long period of time, like years and years, as well as long distance running, is to actually find the fun in what we do because it also takes the pressure off. So if I can, case in point, right? So those who knew last year at Great Ocean Road Run, I epically fell 68 Ks in, beautiful, broke my wrist,
Oh,
smashed my
wow.
head on a rock, ended up lovingly inside the Box Hill stroke unit because I lost right. Like it was actually a really terrifying experience. And like in hindsight, I look back at it and go, "Oh my gosh, that was ridiculous. What were you thinking?" Anyway, it was an unfun way to finish a big run. Anyway, what that meant is I had to come back to running way slower. I had to heal from my hand. I had to heal from my concussion. I had to come back slowly, and it's been a fight to get back, right? But when I had my favorite run of the year is often 2 Bays Trail Run, and it's
Mm.
awesome. And first thing I had to do was I had to change from a 56 Ks to a 28 Ks. And I remember saying to my coach Beck, I have to downgrade to 28 Ks. And she said, no, that is not a downgrade. You are simply changing distances. And it took me like 3 or 4 turns of saying it to just say, actually, no, I'm not downgrading. I'm just changing distances. There's not a downgrade in running. There is just change in running. That mindset in itself was like, oh, okay, I've got to change the way I say this. I've got to change the way I talk about my running. And then I was like, okay, so how am I going to do 28 Ks and not feel the pressure to do pace? Because I wasn't there for pace yet. I'm just trying to get the Ks back in. I actually was really anxious about trail running again after having the fall. And so all this pressure was coming on me. I was feeling really anxious. I was feeling there was no joy in running. Like, what am I going to do to get out of this headspace and actually remember why I'm doing this jolly thing in the first place? Because I'm sure as heck not running this far to try and, get the Ks in or to prove a point. So, of course, I made the most logical decision that there is, and I dressed up from head to toe as a mermaid.
As you do.
So much glitter and so many things stuck in my hair that there was absolutely, and a full mermaid tail, right? There was no chance I could take that run seriously, head to toe dressed as a mermaid. And it was so joyful. It was why I jolly well run, because I don't run for the seriousness. I run for the headspace and the lightness that running gives me. So I do find that sometimes we get so stuck in, I must do this, I must do that, rather than actually, I love this. And I've got to figure out how to find the love of it again, if that's what I want to do. And that's what I've done before in like 100K events. I've got to the 75K mark and I've pulled out of my goodies bag, your drop bag at 75Ks, my fairy lights, and I've stuck them all throughout my pack, and I've run the last 25 with fairy lights in my pack, and that kind of stuff. And running with friends. Last week we did a run with an object challenge. Have you seen that going around?
Sort of, but do tell.
Now to run with an object. You have to run with any random object. So I got my group of girls that run on a Tuesday, and we all ran with an object. We had watering cans, we had hot sauce, we had toys, we had cars. We were all running 10Ks with these random objects because it's fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like Emma Rose, I think a lot of runner. Although I don't have a lot of experience like you, like in ultra running, but I think I've seen a lot of even the elite, they're chasing for PB podium, but I think they lost sight on what running really all about. Like really that fun element is something that I think it will last for a very, very long time. And it's something that it will keep getting you coming back to running over and over again. And the other thing I also totally agree what you said. I think a lot of time, I think not just the runner, but a lot of people chasing for perfection, right? Like in my work, a lot of time, the company are looking for, hey, we need everything to be perfect, but no. You need progression, not perfection. As long as you have progress, and that's what it matters. You never be able to be perfect. And I think that really sort of really similar to what you just said before. I think you can never be perfect. You can never you can never go into a race that you feel perfect. There's always something happen, and how you can be resilient and get through that. I think that is the most important.
And that comes back though, doesn't it, to that being comfortable with imperfection, and B, also being comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Exactly.
And look, I understand that different people have different whys. There are some people who this is their job and they are chasing those PBs and those world
Oh,
records.
absolutely.
That's their job, and absolutely, like all credit to them. It's not my why, and I think we all have different whys, and that's also cool too.
Mm.
Yeah, and off the back of what Kelvin and you're saying there, I mean, yes, there's athletes out there that are literally going for gold, and that, as you say, is their job,
Mm.
and they are striving for perfection. But what the masses that we are communicating to, and your good self is to hear you break it down. And this always happens when we start having these chats. We get about 45, 50 minutes in, and all the good stuff starts coming out. And
Yes.
that's what we're striving to hear is the extraordinary stuff that is coming out of everyday people, and you like yourself. So I've got one question for you, and we may not have prepped you very well for this at the beginning here, if you have listened to one of our episodes before. But if you were to break it down, we ask everyone, what is your cowbell moment? What is the moment that, whether it be a finish line or either running through the hospitals and hearing them use your and the announcement over the PA in the hospitals, but something that resonates for you in your ultra running story?
Oh, I would have a few, and definitely Mountain to Melbourne was one of them, getting to the end of that 180. But I have to say, I think my best ever moment was the last kilometre of the 2024 Surf Coast Century, where I PB'd by a mile. And that last K was my fastest K of the entire event. And I said to the friend that was running with me at the time, I said, I just have to go. And she's like, okay. And so I just dropped down a gear, and I remember flying through that last K and I couldn't stop smiling. Something came over me, and I had this rush of just absolute pure joyfulness. And I just was this like somewhat crazy human just running through the last kilometer, and I actually could not wipe the smile off my face. And coming through the finish line, I just was elated. And to me, that feeling was just something I wish I could bottle.
So
I
you're
actually have
enjoying it.
the
So
photo.
you're enjoying it, were you?
Thoroughly, thoroughly enjoying 99 kilometers in. Who would have known?
Wow. Yeah, I
Mm,
still have your photos, Emma, like you with your hand raised, like that was amazing. Like
it was a good
when you
moment.
crossed the finish line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so probably that, I'd say. I know it doesn't sound like it was that fancy, but it's just those moments, they're just these moments sometimes in time where that joyfulness is just
Mm.
all consuming, and you can't feel anything but just that lightness. It's quite a special experience.
Well, I think that sums up the whole chat, really. It's the light in amongst all of the noise, you know. It's the joy, and how do we bottle it up? How do we bottle it up? And that's the energy, and that's the enthusiasm, and that's the incredible stories that yeah, hopefully we're getting to share.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Amazing. Emma Rose, I think I keep thinking that like you are actually our living cowbell. Like you, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I think you just I mean you have that energy. I mean you really motivate people. And I would love to see you at the your next race. Oh, by the way, what's your next race?
Well, the next one will be the Warburton track. Oh, hang on, before Warburton is Warrandyte. So I've got Warrandyte
Yeah.
21 Ks, and then Warburton 50, and then Warburton 14 the day after, and then Mountain to Melbourne, the big hurrah. Mm.
Nice. And there's another big one, isn't it? The ultra.
Oh,
Um,
after that, I've then got the Miler in South Australia in July. And then I've tried not to plan after that because I'm really like, I need to really think about what I'd like to do in the second half of the year. But we'll
Mm.
see. Watch this space.
Yeah, there's some good races there. And tell us, so how can people donate?
Look, there is a Razorly page that goes straight to the Eastern Health Foundation that ensures that you get a tax receipt. So probably the easiest thing would be to jump onto that particular website, but you can find that easily through Instagram is probably the easiest, either on the Runjoy Melbourne, which is my Instagram, or Mountain to Melbourne Instagram. There's links on both of those that will take you straight to the foundation fundraising page.
And I'm sure we can put a link in our bio as well. So we'll do that for sure.
Amazing. Thank you.
Emma, it's been so great to have you on. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I actually think we need to celebrate more ADHDers out there running in this community. And so as Kelvin's touched on, you've been an absolute joy, and I wish we could bottle you up.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Thank you,
Cheers.
man. All right. Chat soon.